I'm Gary Birtles, one of the old gits from a long time ago. You've got to tune into Tricky Talks, I believe, so just do it. All the best.
Robertson, the first time we've seen them attack them, and there's Francis! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robertson do. And still Robertson, getting his shot in, and a goal! Robertson!
Hello and welcome along to the Tricky Talks podcast. And coming up this week, Vitor Pereira is in. We'll discuss his appointment and what that means for Forest for the rest of the season, before turning our attention back to matters on the pitch, as a trip to Turkey is on the menu for Pereira and Forest as they travel to face Fenerbahce in the first knockout round of the Europa League. Here with me to discuss whether Forest can gobble up a result is Kate. How are you doing?
I'm all right, Simon. I'm feeling a little bit better now. The dust has settled and the new guy is in. So yeah, let's talk about it and find some positives.
Absolutely, and hopefully Mollo, who is also here, can find some positives as well. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, all good, thank you. There's always positives. Still got the badge, that's the main thing.
Yeah, there are. So let's get straight into the appointment of Vitor Pereira then. And I know on last week's show we were all very much in favour of an interim appointment, and subsequently he's been given an 18-month contract, which very well mean it still is interim, of course, because you just never know. But what you were the prime advocate of an interim contract, Kate. What were your thoughts when you heard it was 18?
I thought it was a misprint.
18 days, I think.
Surely they mean 18 days. I don't think it makes a difference, does it? What the contract actually says. I mean, it makes a difference in terms of how much he'd get paid out if we sacked him next week. But yeah, I mean, I suppose in some respects it's offering a show of faith, and it's saying that it isn't the end of the season, which it did make me wonder if that's why it took a little while to announce if the powers that be were negotiating that. But ultimately, I don't really think it makes any difference. He's got to do the job in the next 12 games, hasn't he? And that will ultimately dictate whether or not it's the end of this season or next season, rather than what's on the contract. Yeah,
very much so. I'm looking at it as though it's a bit of a carrot, Mollo, in terms of if he does keep us up this season, then you'd have thought he's got a chance of staying on for a further 12 months if he can perform well enough to get the team to remain in the Premier League.
Absolutely, but I think what's clear now, it's not just the number of points you get, it's how you go about getting them. A section of our fan base is way more demanding than just getting us out of those horrible League One and Championships. It's now got to be done with pretty football as well, it would seem. Not that I'm advocating awful football, I'm advocating winning football, but let's see, it gives him an opportunity. If he plays the right way and gets the points, then of course it only goes one way for him.
Yeah, we'll get into his managerial style actually in a moment, because I've done a bit of research, because I don't know much about the guy other than what he's done at Wolves, and he's a bit of a journeyman as well, having what appears to be short-term appointments pretty much everywhere he goes, so maybe this is an ideal fit for both club and manager. But we'll talk about his managerial style in a moment. But as at today, when we're recording, today was his first day on the job. Kate, what do you think his first message will be to the players? Do the players need a bit of a pick-me-up, do you think, or do you think he'll be there to deliver a kick up the backside?
I think he's got to be really, really careful how he manages the players. Clearly they have a lot of say in what goes on, and I think they will be very keen to tell him how they want to play and how they think they should play, and he's got to find a way to say, I hear you and I respect that you are great players, however we have a toe in relegation and therefore you need to play this way and this is how we get out of it. So whether or not he'll be able to do that, I think we'll get the first glimpse of on Thursday, in terms of whether we think they're responding to whatever he has said. So it's, to work. Was that the social media post?
Time to work.
Time to work. And isn't it just time to work for everybody?
It is. Now, Molo, if you were a player and you
Yeah.
have now been given a certain amount of power, having had an influence in what happened to Deitch, would you be receptive to a new manager coming in, or would you do like what Kate said perhaps and think, I'd like to play this way and that way? What would you feel if you were in their shoes, perhaps? I know it's difficult, but...
It is difficult, and as a workplace, it's a unique environment, isn't it?
Mm.
Many years ago, when I used to care about that type of thing and career progression, I read a very good book called Managing My Manager, but I never for a minute thought it would come true in the world of football. It's hard because Kate's nailed it. Are they going to be receptive if it's not what they want to hear? But equally, the sort of things they definitely need to hear are things like pass the ball to a red shirt when we're at home, and pass the ball to a player in the same colour shirt, ideally. Be a little bit more adventurous in the final third. Pass the ball forwards. Don't chicken out of tackles. Win your tackles. All the absolute prerequisite basics, yeah. All the absolute basics that we've not completely lost sight of by any means. I was looking today, I think we've only conceded, I might have this wrong, our number of goals conceded is actually not bad and not too different to some teams in the top 10, but we know scoring's been a problem, and we know we've lost our main talisman on that front, but the adventure has just not been there, has it, for a while? And I don't mean in terms of the way we're set up or the way we play. Yes, the subs in the last few games haven't been great, but the bravery to try and beat your man and get to the byline and put a cross in, the bravery for your two centre midfielders to try and play a forward ball, all that kind of thing, rather than pot shots from outside the box. I don't know. You can't tar every player with the same brush, but what we can say is clearly, to be successful, any manager coming in is going to have to meet with the senior players at some point early on, and secondly, it's clearly not an easy dressing room to manage when they're not winning ultimately. And is it, like every Forest fan, we've sat there wondering what's going on? Is it because they've still got the love in with Nuno? Who knows? But they've got to let go, they've got to be professional. And I've read some great articles by ex-players saying how it's probably unfolding in the dressing room right now, generically, what happens when you have a string of managers, and it doesn't make pretty reading. You know, a lot of those players, they might not have had great seasons, but they've got enough in the bank to go and not pick a club, but get picked up elsewhere, aren't they? There's not going to be many of them that are going to be left fighting it out in the Championship if they don't want to, and that's what we're up against at the moment to some extent. We need that whole thing that Nuno had for us, that Steve Cooper had for us, outside of the football, and that's everybody pulling in the same direction, getting rid of the division. And whatever people say, losing Nuno was a bit of a disaster, and straight away, within no time at all, lots of people had turned on Ange, and you know, he was crap, let's be fair. But there was plenty of people right from the off didn't want Sean Dyche, and the minute things started to go a bit wrong in games, they were on him. We can't afford that for these last 12 games. The atmosphere against Wolves, it was very, very nervous. And going back to your original question, the players are going to be thinking, oh, what's this going to be like? Some of them will have friends that were at Wolves that have been telling them how they're going to be managed and this type of thing. I notice there's a lot of assumptions being made about the formation he prefers, but apparently when he was at Olympiacos he preferred to play with a back four, so at least he's got a little bit of flexibility, hopefully. And hopefully it's horses for courses, because that Wolves squad he had was not a strong squad, and he had the three at the back. He had a terrific left back, did he, in Ait Nouri, and he had some pizzazz up front or goals up front, and at number 10 he had the pizzazz when he wasn't being suspended. So he played to his strengths maybe, and I pray he does that with us and works out what those strengths are going forward, because I don't think we've got too many problems defensively. It's going in the other direction, isn't it?
I think you touch on a good point. It's like, how much do the players want it? How receptive are they going to be? Because to be fair to them, they've been through some turmoil in that dressing room, having now been on their fourth manager. If they're not receptive and they don't adapt to a new manager's style, then they're going to go down, aren't they? So the key is, but if they are receptive, and they do buy into what the new manager wants, then they've got every chance of staying up because we think they are good enough. So a lot depends on whether the new manager is persuasive enough, Kate, to actually get them to buy in. And he's a bit of a character from what I've read, and hopefully he can do that.
There's a familiarity to him, isn't there? I mean, I know he isn't Nuno. I do know that. But, you know, the Portuguese element, the ex-Wolves manager, he already seems to be quite personable in terms of the media. You know, what is it, points and then pints? You know, we can all get on board with points and then pints, can't we? I mean, what more is there to football than...
We can throw a few pizzas in as well. Points, can't we?
There is, and, you know, the language element, I think, is important and shouldn't be underestimated. So there is a familiarity about him, and that feels like a positive familiarity as well. Like, I haven't seen as of yet, and I don't deep dive by any means, but I haven't seen a lot of negativity coming from various, you know, the social media people, the people that you just generally talk to. I was chatting to the guy in the post office today who sits behind his big Forest badge, and, you know, I've not heard any negativity yet. I think people are welcoming generally, and like I say, a little bit more positive. I'm certainly more positive about Thursday night from what I've read about him. So there is an opportunity there, isn't there, for him to come in and be that person that we need, that does, as Molo said, unite us as a fan base, unite the players on the pitch, and get it feeling like Forest again, which is funny, isn't it? Because this is also very Forest to do all the manager sacking, and we laugh about the roller coaster all the time, and yet when you think about Forest and the times that you've loved, it is those times when we've all been together, you know, when the City ground is rocking, when you're absolutely fully invested in those players that are on the pitch and you believe that they are too. So, like you say, big job. But at the moment, it's feeling a little bit better, I think.
I did say I'll talk you through his managerial style, so I've done a bit of research to work out just what sort of manager he is, and I'll read some high-level points. I won't go through every detail that I've found, but I'll read you through some basic high-level stuff. So Vitor Pereira is widely regarded as a thoughtful, tactically flexible manager whose style combines organisation, structured build-up play and adaptability to the players he has. Rather than forcing a one-size-fits-all system, his approach can vary depending on his squad and league context, but several clear themes emerge from his coaching career. One around his managerial philosophy. He likes structured, disciplined teams. He's got that tactical flexibility. He likes his team to have possession with a purpose. Tactical style of play. He likes build-up and ball progression, playing systematically from the back, with centre-backs and deep midfielders initiating moves. Pressing based on triggers, so instead of relentless high press, Pereira likes trigger-based pressing, meaning players wait for specific cues, whether that's bad touches, sideways pass, exposed players, before engaging aggressively. He likes patient, calculated attacks, and he also likes fluid roles and movement within his team, especially with attacking players. Managerial traits, he's got that adaptability, that clarity and team cohesion, so everybody knows the job they're doing. It's very structured, and it has that balance between control and progression. Now, there are some criticisms and considerations that you need to think about as well. Some observers note that whilst his structure is strong, it can be perceived as cautious if his team lacks the technical players to execute his possession game, but thankfully I don't think that's Forest. And his success has varied in recent years, with his tactical methods sometimes questioned when they don't produce results quick enough, especially in fast-paced leagues. So to summarise then, his managerial and tactical style blends discipline, intelligent possession, flexible formations and situation pressing, and seeking a balance between controlling the game and exploiting moments to attack. So given what you've heard there, does that kind of sound as though that's a style of play that would suit the current Forest squad, Molo?
Well, it's all just words though, isn't it? And the one that stood out for me is intelligent possession, and that's something we've struggled with massively this season. Intelligence on the pitch. the ability to put a decent cross in early, the ability to take an opportunity when it's presented to you without hesitation. Read loads the last few days and about various things. I'm a geek, and it was an interesting article I was reading, nothing to do with Forest, talking about why it's so difficult to adapt to the Premier League as a forward player, and you can be successful elsewhere. A moment's hesitation, you don't have the time. You've got athletic centre backs at every club, all the stuff we know. So what I think the biggest thing in his favour is that he's been in this league before, so he knows straight away he's got to find 5 wins or the equivalent from somewhere in the next 12 games. That's his job. Statistically, that should keep us up, even if West Ham find 6 or 7, because the teams above us, especially if we knock some of them into it, someone's not going to get past 42 points. So we shall see. It's just, I don't know. Someone told me today, don't be nervous, just enjoy the ride. I'm like, how can you not be nervous? It's terrifying. There's so many unknowns. Kate's kind of hinted at it about it would be typical Forest to do what we're doing and survive and rip up the rule book that says having all these managers is the most ridiculous thing you can do. Rip up the rule book and be the first team to have 4 managers and actually survive, as Olympiacos did a few years ago, and then won their European competition and still have the same manager, I believe. So it can happen. Do I have faith in the current squad to make it happen? Honestly, I think it lacks character, and I think what we need is character. They've shown they lacked character this season consistently, and we need a lot of luck with injuries, a bit like we had last season, because there's 1 or 2 key players that when they're injured, the whole team drops off. And one of them's probably not going to be back for the rest of the season in Chris Wood. So I do worry about finding what we need to get the point. That said, if the new manager has that magic confidence pill and the players can play to the potential that they've shown at various times, not just last season, in their careers, anything can happen. It's fine margins.
So, Kate, do you think he's got that magic confidence pill that Molo mentioned, or do you think he's going to have more of an influence on in terms of the way he tactically wants them to play? What is it? Where's that balance? Is it confidence, or is it tactics, or is it a combination of them both?
It's got to be a combination of them both, but I think the confidence has to come from him, and that is something that I do think was lacking with Dyche. So he's got to be confident in his methods. He's got to be confident that he can manage them and get them playing, because a leader has to lead, and they are, we can see them as amazing footballers. We can see them as people, toddlers spitting their dummy out the pram and saying, no, but I want to do it my way, and getting their managers sacked. We can see them in so many different lights, and it's very easy to do that with everything that's happened in this season. But ultimately, what they are is a team of footballers that need to win games. And although I agree with what was said earlier in terms of, yes, they can go off, they can find other clubs, there are some of them that definitely will. There's been a lot of talk about that today in the media. But also, there is an element of them having to sell themselves. And this is their opportunity to do just that. So he's got to find the way to tune into what they need to get them playing. And that is going to be the hardest thing. That is the psychology of football, the psychology of management, coaching, and success, isn't it? And that's going to be even more difficult being the 4th one that's coming in, because it's a mess. There's no denying it's a mess. And their heads are going to be all over the place. So for me, if there's a confidence pill, then he needs to take it himself and have confidence in what he is doing and lead.
I think we all need to take one of those confidence pills, don't we?
Liam.
And we talked about, Molo, you mentioned there about other teams in the relegation fight. Obviously, we know West Ham are picking up at the minute. Leeds are showing a fairly decent level of form. Forest are not, given the 3 games we've just played against Palace, Leeds and Wolves, where that was a real ideal opportunity to pick up points, and they got 2 out of 9. So Forest seem to be on a bit of a downward trend, as do Spurs as well. They seem to be plummeting. Now, you think the old saying they're too good to go down applies to both Forest and Spurs, but they're not, as we well know. Given the fact that Spurs have just appointed a new manager, and they're also looking for that new manager bounce, as our Forest, do you think it comes down to who wins between Pereira and Tudor? I know it's not as simple as that, given the fact that there are other teams and many other factors to consider, but those are the two teams that are looking for that immediate new manager bounce. Do you guys think it is a battle between those two, and whoever comes out on top will win and keep their team in the Premier League?
I think that's the team I'm hoping we can reel in more than any other, because if West Ham continue their form, they're going to be difficult to finish above. And my feeling is, looking at the situation at Tottenham, they're having a lot of bad luck with injuries again, and I feel like they're the sort of club that if they did drop into the bottom three, they're not. They've shown no character, should we say?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's the team I could see being really. I mean, they've sold their top scorer. They got their captain's got himself banned for another 3 games. They booed their own goalkeeper, who's actually quite a decent keeper, to be fair. I don't know that much about them outside of, I think, Solanke's back, but the real top quality players that you think of at Spurs that you wouldn't mind if we could sign them, so to speak, all seem to be injured, and I don't know when they're back, so that's in our favour. But that's the other thing, that they've got some very, very good players who may or may not be available as the season wears on. So if we can get them into that bottom 3, it could be very interesting. And I know literally nothing about their manager, apart from he's not won for his last 8 games at Juventus, because that's what the Spurs fans are focused on. Yeah, I mean, there's other teams. So I was reading, again, another article I read, someone saying they still think, not a Forest fan by the way, an independent journalist, saying they think Leeds are still in it because of the games they've got to play at home. But the other thing that seems to be happening, you've got to play everyone twice, but it can matter when you play them. And wouldn't we have loved to have played Liverpool again a month or 2 back, instead of now, when they seem to have refound some sort of form in a week, upcoming game. So time will tell. And May, we need to be out of it by the start of May, because we've got a horrible May, haven't we?
We have indeed. Now, Tudor, there is one advantage Pereira's got over Tudor, Kate, and that is the fact that he's managed in the Premier League. Tudor has not, and foreign coaches sometimes, or quite often actually, they find it difficult to adapt to managing in a new league. So you've got to hope that Tudor also encounters those difficulties, but at least it's one advantage that Pereira does hold over him.
It absolutely is an advantage. And I think, again, when you look at the media, the reaction seems to be that of the 2 managers that were appointed, we've got the better deal. Which is nice to hear, isn't it? You don't get that very often. Again, like you and like Molo, I don't know a great deal about him. I do know that Spurs is a tough sell, that the fans are not forgiving. And isn't his first game the North London derby?
Yeah, it's
Is that correct? Well, now there's a baptism of fire for you. Because if they go down in that, and they go down badly, they are going to hate him. And they are going to express that hate very, very vocally. So I do think it's not just about managing in the Premier League, although that is important and we do have an advantage there. I think it's also about managing Spurs, because it can be a really horrible place to be, and I don't know if he'll have experienced that before. So it is a baptism of fire for him, and let's hope it doesn't go well, because we have to, don't we? We have to. We are looking over our shoulder all the time, both ways. And I hate to say it, but nobody wants to be in a relegation battle against Nuno Espirito Santo, because he's good at that. He's really good at that, and they are finding their form at the worst possible time for us. So yes, we try and hope that Spurs aren't going to get the new manager bounce, that Tudor's inexperience in the Premier League is going to go in our favour, and that this is it, that this is the turning point that we need. And it does feel like it's possible again,
I think one of the other advantages Forest has as a club over Spurs in this situation is that we've been through it before, and we've been twice, and we've recovered both times. And as a fan base, we know how to get behind the team to help them along their way to the Premier League survival, whereas Spurs, I don't think they've not had that. I know they finished quite low last season, but that was perhaps masked by their Europa League win. Whereas, yes, they're in the Champions League and they're doing relatively well, and as a fan base, like you said, Kate, they're booing the team already. They don't seem that supportive, do they, at this moment in time when exactly the opposite is needed?
Mm-hmm.
I think last season as well, they never had any crucial games in the league, did they? The league was written off because the bottom three was pretty much certain. For all his faults, and God knows we saw plenty of them, Postecoglou did focus on the Europa League in the last couple of months of the season, and he was picking very inexperienced teams and keeping his best 11 for Europa League. So their position, well, it's not a false one because it can't be false after that many games. They were never ever in any kind of danger of going down, and like you say, they've not had relegation pressure. But we'll find out, won't we? Oh God, I hope we find out. You know, it's breaking. I can't believe we're going through this again. And you know what's going to be comical? It's probably sometime in the next 3 or 4 weeks we're going to get our season card renewal things through, and it'll be like, wow, we could be paying, I think it was about 800 quid last season for Championship football.
I know. I think if the club have got any sense, they'd hold off doing that until the end of the season, so they know what league they're in. Because you're right. Once they announce the prices, are they? And we then say, for instance, they announce the prices, and then we get relegated. Are they going to really backtrack on reducing those prices, considering there'd be in a league below? They
can't be charging 55, 60 quid per game to
no
supporters coming to the games, and I know I don't want to get into the loyalty debate, but season ticket holders have committed to the club year on year on year for every game in whatever division. It would be wrong to end up paying the equivalent or more than a day-to-day person is. You don't pay for the privilege of committing to every game. You don't pay for having your seat reserved. It's the other way round in football. Always has been, always should be, because Preston on a Tuesday night or Lincoln on a Wednesday evening, they're not going to be able to sell that for 55, 60 quid should it come to that. And God forbid we return to the kids for a quid, football for a fiver and all that. It just wouldn't be right. But anyway, that's another debate, but hopefully we're not going to have. So,
just very quickly though, Molly, you can confirm you were there in the days of Carlisle, Preston.
Why did he pick on them as well? What about Oldham and Colchester? I think Plymouth was one of the worst, but yeah, I can confirm. I had a very privileged upbringing in football terms because the first 18 years of my life supporting Forest were under a certain Brian Clough. So I didn't really experience any bad days until I was well into my late teens, early 20s, and relegation was being that one, and then, but yes, I can confirm I haven't jumped on the bandwagon in the last 4 or 5 years or whatever it is some people would say, and I can also say I'm not nervous about going to Fenerbahce away because I went to Millwall away in the 80s as a sort of 15-year-old or whatever, so without any buses to protect you. So
that was
one of my favourite. I have to interrupt there. That was one of my favourite ever stories from my dad, who went to Millwall away and was stood there, and he said all of a sudden the crowd started to sort of part and people started to shuffle and everybody started looking around as to say what's going on, and there was a guy swinging an axe around his head on a chain at this point, and he went, that's why everybody's moving. And that was his away day at Millwall. God only knows what year that was, but
that was before my time. That was
definitely telling that story. How on earth do you get an axe into a football stadium?
I remember it's one of the very few times that in my heart of hearts I was glad we conceded an 87th minute equaliser, I think it was, because I think Hodgie had put us 2 up. It was when Millwall managed to get in the top division for the first time, and I think they were unbeaten as well. It was like October, and Hodgie put us 2-0 up, and then they scored 1, and then they scored 1 right near the end, because the feeling, it was horrible, and that all the things you saw before the game were on another level to anything I'd kind of seen maybe up to that point. I think Birmingham City was probably the only other one in the FA Cup where it was on that kind of level where, back in the day, you could easily avoid the situations. It was easy to walk away in a different direction or cross the road or whatever. It didn't feel like that at Millwall in the 1980s. It felt like you had to have eyes in the back of your head. And even when a policeman said to us, another time I went and said, "Oh, we're parked over there," and he said something along the lines of, "If I were you, I'd get on the train, go a couple of stops down with all the other people, Forest fans that have been escorted, and then come back in a couple of hours and get the car." And I was like, what kind of answer is that? So yeah, anyway, we digress. But
Yeah,
yes, I was there.
Yeah, we do laugh about that because it was an inside joke. We had some fan comment on one of our social media videos questioning our loyalty and where were we when we were travelling to places like the aforementioned Carlisle, Doncaster, Plymouth, whatever, and
Rotherham
now,
as well.
And Rotherham, yeah.
Rotherham.
Been to Rotherham loads of times. Love that leisure centre used to get a drink in.
He now thinks we're all football experts, so that was an inside joke there. But just to round off then, before we move on to Fenerbahce, I was watching Sky Sports on Sunday and I caught a feature where they were talking about Pereira, and they ended up asking the panellists, do they think Forest will stay up? And they had Jackie Oatley, Julian Laurent and a journalist from the Times, and they all said yes, Forest will stay up. So I'll ask you guys the same question. Kate, as at right now, will Forest?
Yes.
Sitting on the fence. I'll need to see it, how the new manager settles in first.
Yes
I
or no?
pray so. My loyalty will not be tested, but I pray so.
Yeah, I hope they will as well. So I think they will, thankfully. Right, on to Fenerbahce then. So you guys are both going. It's going to be a long trip. It's going to be something a little bit different, being in terms of how you are being shepherded to the ground and how long you're going to go in there. But just for the benefit of viewers and listeners, do you want to share your travel plans and what you're expecting while you're out there, Kate?
So, yeah, we're flying out of Stansted on Wednesday morning. Because of the 3-hour difference, it gets us there sort of early evening into Istanbul. So, hoping very much to make it to the ticket collection point that night so that that's done and dusted and they're in our wallets, which is one of the things we're allowed to take. By the way, you're allowed to take a wallet.
As long as it's got no coins in it.
As long as it's got no... No, I did actually genuinely read that if you take cash, they will confiscate it. Yeah. So you are supposed to take a wallet with a debit card, your ticket and your passport. That is it. So
you got to put your passport in your wallet.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely planning an outfit that's got plenty of pockets.
Yeah.
My question would be, if you've got a note and you buy something, how do they give you a change?
Well, you've already gone through the turnstiles then, haven't you? So surely they're going to be searching you as you go in, and then what you get afterwards. Yeah. Well, I suppose if
it's Turkish lira, I suppose it's mostly notes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
So yeah, searchers galore, shoes off, nothing hiding between your toes, people. So beware of that, Molly. You're gonna have to take your socks and shoes off before they let you in.
Better cut my toenails.
That is true, yeah, genuinely it says in the stuff that they've sent out that you will have to take your socks and shoes off as part of one of the searches. There's going to be, I would say, probably a minimum of 3 searches as we go in, and one of them you're definitely going to have to take your shoes off. That's on the stipulation.
So it's like going through airport security, isn't it? Are you going to have to stand there in front of these machines and do that shape like
I tell
like
you what,
do
as well,
before?
and this is a little bit of a bugbear, I will have to have a female do this. We always do, and the queue, a bit like the ladies' toilets, is always massively longer because there's always so many more male stewards, but we have to have females, and we'll get patted down just as many times and shoes off and all that. But I'm not complaining. I want to make that clear. I'm not complaining. I'm very lucky to be going. I'm very happy to be going. And what I have said to my almost 14-year-old son, who had the option not to go because of the way it's set up and the amount of hours that we're going to be in the stadium and all of that, and he was adamant that he wanted to go, is this is going to be an experience like no other. And we are going to laugh about it. We're going to tell stories about it. We're talking about it now, preempting it. And I'm not defending it. I do think a lot of it is unnecessary, but we will go. I certainly will be sticking by the rules because I know they are there to keep us safe, and we will come home with some tales to tell. So, and like I say, I am feeling a little bit more optimistic about potentially coming back with something in terms of points under Pereira.
Aren't you guys located in the corner of the stadium? Is that where you have been located? Is that right? Have I seen the pictures right?
It's sort of, if you think of the Brian Clough stand, it's kind of the end section of the Brian Clough stand, upper and lower tier. So to be fair, it looks nice, good view, nice stadium, as long as they've cleaned the perspex and nets and what have you. But it's just insane the things you've got. I know it's to keep us safe in a lot of ways, but the searches, the shoes off thing, I haven't even read through my bump yet, to be honest. I just think, well, go along with it. And what I'm very, very aware of course, is there is no European Court of Human Rights legislation at all there. So you've just got to be super careful, because you could disappear into a prison cell for pretty much anything and stay there for however long, I guess.
Yeah, if it's worth it, there was a guy who was on the BBC Radio Nottingham Shut Up and Show More Football podcasts, the last episode I think, and he was primarily on the show to talk about Pereira, but he did offer some insight into Villa's trip to Turkey when he also covered the team for that trip, and he shared some good insights on what to do, what not to do on that podcast. So if you get a chance to listen to that, everyone,
I've read a good few write-up by Villa fans, and
it was good.
Most of it's fairly obvious, isn't it?
Again, he did say it was primarily a positive experience.
Yeah.
Which
just
is
the
good
boredom, the hanging around bit. Are you allowed to take a good book in with you? That's what I wondered.
No books.
Just make sure your phones are charged is the best advice I've seen, because you can't even take a power bank.
Wallet, debit card, passport, ticket. Literally, that's it. No books.
And a phone?
No, your phone, sorry, yeah. No books, no snacks, no drinks. Anything medical has to have already been registered. If you haven't done that by now, then you're in trouble. Literally, that's it.
You had to register flags.
Yeah, I know.
So, Mollo, what's your plans? What are your travel plans for flying over?
Again, minimal. I'm going to fly out in the evening and do an overnight flight and get some kip on the plane. Arrive in Istanbul at 6 a.m. and then go straight to our hotel, which, because it's so cheap, the hotel, we've already booked for 2 nights. So we're going to go straight to breakfast, having not used the bed that we booked. Dump all our stuff, go get a ticket, have a little mooch around, because it's a shame we're not going to get to see more of Istanbul, because it is one of the great, well, not just European, but one of the great capitals of the world, isn't it? It's spanning 2 continents and all that sort of stuff. But I think in the circumstances, I think it's going to have to be just primarily about the football, and then see how we go. I've changed my flights because of all the grief around it. I was going to stay out there a bit longer and go and visit lots of stuff, but now I'm thinking, I'm just going to come home.
So you've got Istanbul as a city. You've got from what I understand, you've got the Asian part of Istanbul, which is where Fenerbahce are based, and you've got the European part of the city, which is where Galatasaray and Besiktas are based. Which stadium is hosting the final this year?
Besiktas.
Right.
There's the Asian and the European side are basically split by a river that obviously will be bussed over.
Yeah.
In our prison buses. Hopefully we'll be able to see out the windows maybe and be able to at least see some of the city, even if we're not going to get a chance to walk through much of it. It's a shame. But one thing it has taught me, if it is a city worth visiting in the future, the flights are dirt cheap. Good
hint. So the one thing that I will be pleased to see the back of in terms of Sean Dyche's appointment is that the Sean Dyche, Ian Woan and Steve Stone song about going to Istanbul, because that is probably the worst song I've heard in a long, long while. They won't be singing that anymore, so it'll be interesting to see if they find an alternative with the new manager. And you obviously like that song, Kate, judging by your face.
I like it because when we were in Betis, it absolutely rang out that night, and that was quite a moment to experience. No, we were right back at the beginning. No.
Yes, Ange was the manager, I was going to say.
Yes, Braga. No, because Betis was the first time we chanted for Ange, wasn't it? Probably the only time we chanted for Ange. So yeah, right the way back in Braga, before it started, and we were all in together, and it rang out, and that was, yes, sorry, Betis.
Yeah. I hate it. It doesn't rhyme.
That was quite a moment.
Yeah, I was like you. It didn't make sense, did it? It was like, you think it's going to rhyme because we don't care. He's got no hair, and all of that, and then it's Istanbul. It's like,
Yeah.
not my favourite.
Right there, we are off to Istanbul,
You are.
as it
Which
turns
came
out.
true. Does he go to the games as well?
No, I don't know, but he'd certainly have a few up his sleeve next time A Block's open at Liverpool. He had a good one we had two good ones. One for Edu, which I can't repeat, about the signings, and another good one for Luca. It was quite a good one. I can't remember the words now.
Well, I'll be there with you on the shelf for the Liverpool game, so
Oh,
I'll be able to
brilliant.
experience Seatman for the first
Yeah.
time.
I'll introduce you. Get him up. No, don't get him on the show.
No, all right. Right, on to Fenerbahce themselves then. As we go through, we have done this for every opponent in the Europa League. National ranking, they're currently second. Their European rank is 35th. And for comparison purposes, we're 48th. So they are actually ranked higher than us, even though they finished lower than us in the actual Europa League group league. The world rank is 37th, and we're 53rd. In the league this season, they've played 22. They've won 15, they've drawn 7, which means they're undefeated in the league this season. They've scored 51 goals and conceded 20. It might sound a little bit scary, but then you start to look at their last 6 games. They haven't won so they've won 3 in a row, and the previous 3 games to that was 2 draws and a defeat. So their last defeat was actually against Aston Villa in the Europa League. And then the Europa League itself, as I said, they finished 20th. They beat Stuttgart 1-0. They drew 0-0 with Victoria Plzen. They drew 1-1 with Ferencvaros, interestingly enough, who we beat 4-0. So good comparison there. They won 4-0 away at Bran. They lost 1-0 at home to Villa, of course, and they drew 1-1 at home to FCSB from Romania. So they didn't play a huge number of teams at the top other than Villa. They didn't play a huge number of teams at the bottom either, other than FCSB. But they did finish 20th for a reason, I suppose. So guys, that must give you a little bit of hope that we can get the better of them over 2 legs. The first leg is going to be crucial though, isn't it? And we talked about it earlier in the show. Is, do you think the manager will need to put out what he thinks is his strongest lineup in order to make his mark straight away? Or do you think he will have other priorities? Kate, we'll start with you. They've had a rest, they've had a week's break. I think it has to be the strongest lineup, doesn't it?
I would hope so. Whatever he perceives the strongest lineup to be, that's potentially where you might hit a difference, is what we perceive to have been the strongest lineup and the most successful lineup so far may differ from what he thinks. But I would like to think that he is going to prioritise this, not just in terms of competition, but in terms of his first game, and that makes a statement, doesn't it? At least it should do. I honestly think coming home and not having lost would be huge. If we came back and we were only a goal behind, I would still not see that as a total disaster. And as Molo alluded to right at the beginning, it's always got to be the manner of it, hasn't it? And the manner of it does start with your starting 11, who you're picking, who you're prioritising, and who you're saying, should be out there working hard for the badge, working hard for the competition. So, yes. And I do think as well that all that we are having to go through in order to go to this game does need to be taken into account a little bit as well, in terms of we need to see whoever they are out on that pitch. We need to see them appreciate that, and we need to see them play for this club, play for this manager, and play for this competition. Again, I don't know who he's, there's been a lot of talk about players like Cunha, I've seen a lot, and whether or not he is suddenly going to feature. I can't say that I love that, but if that's who Pereira deems to be an important part of what he wants to do, then we have to take that at face value for now. But yeah, I hope he goes strong.
Well, when he was manager of Wolves, he had a Cunha playing for him at Wolves. Maybe he likes the name, and maybe he's going to put Jer Cunha up front in the number 10 role or something. We'll see on Thursday, of course. But Molo, I think you probably agree, don't you? In terms
100%. And I think the only thing I would say, clearly, some players look different in training. That always happens. You can't tell me when they practice corners that they're sticking them in the side netting or whatever has been going on in actual games. So we know they look different in training. Otherwise, I wouldn't be taking them. But some players, because he's going to be watching videos since he's got the job, isn't he, of what's gone on. And unfortunately, in a sense, we've got a very clear strongest 8 or 9 players that have to start games for us to win, generally speaking, especially in the Premier League. And then there's 1 or 2 places up for grabs, isn't there? Like now there's a bit of competition up front for who's the least crap striker at the moment. There's a bit of competition out on the wings for who puts in the least number of crap corners and crosses. But outside of that, it almost picks itself. I'd say that, you know what I'm going to say, there's a case with the battle we've got going ahead for Yatesy to get a lot more game time than he has been getting. I'm not just saying that for the Yates loving or anything, but he won't go missing in games even when he's not playing well, and because we can't afford that. We've got too many luxury players already, so we can't afford that. I think when I talked about a lack of character, which is what worries me, there are some players that definitely are not part of that, even if they were involved in the off the pitch shenanigans. Yatesy's one. And I have to say, Morgan Gibbs-White is definitely another one who absolutely has character in abundance, in that he stands up no matter what's happening on the pitch. He stands up and tries to make things happen, works his socks off. So, you know, I want to differentiate between the senior players going off and bitching to the chairman as opposed to what we see on the pitch as well. But yeah, I think he's got to go strong. We've got to be in the tie. Kate alluded to it. Win, lose or draw, we need to be in the tie going into the second leg, because we're more than capable of losing at home. So it's just got to be, we need it to be a tight game. I can't see us winning 4 or 5-0 and saying, oh, that's great, it's over, we can rest the lads next week. But we need to be in the tie. The last time we had a European tie, I came home having lost 2-1 in a 2-legged tie, I should say, really happy, thinking, yep, we've done the hard work. And we all know that's not the case, because you probably remember what happened in the home leg of Munich. But being in it is important. What we can't do is get rolled over, and players like Morgan and potentially Yatesy could be really important, because it's going to be a bizarre white hot atmosphere, isn't it?
It is. I think an early goal would do nicely to silence the crowd, and that's exactly what Villa did, and it worked. For me, I would have Jesus up front, because he's got a tremendous track record in the Europa League so far this season, and he's 2 goals away from being Forest's highest ever European goal scorer in history.
Amazing.
That's amazing. Question marks for me, is Murillo going to be fit? Because I think he's going to be key as well. I dread to think what might happen if he. And also, more importantly perhaps, is who's going to be in goal, because Ortega's not in the squad. He wasn't selected for the Europa League squad, I don't believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But that does leave them exposed with Gunn and Sells as their only 2 goalies in the Europa League squad. So if Sells is injured...
I thought Matt Sells had been dropped from the squad for Ortega.
I thought they'd been swapped out. It wasn't in the initial announcement,
because
but I thought they'd been
his
swapped out as
leg
well.
injury is worse than thought.
I've not seen that, so if that is the case, then maybe there's been an exception to the rule in that sense. So yeah, I do apologise for misreading that. But
the other thing
that was what happened initially, I think.
Yeah, I think we have to remember as well that Fenerbahce have strengthened in the window significantly with what's his face, the great little midfielder that they've signed, the ex-Chelsea, Kante.
Okay, but they also have lost John Duran, who left, the ex-Villa striker who was doing well for Villa. He's left, so that's
And Pereira
those 2
is
signings
managed.
offset.
He's managed Fenerbahce, hasn't he?
He has.
He's managed Fenerbahce. He's managed a lot in Europe. So again, when we were talking about is it an advantage that he's managed in the Premier League, it absolutely is. I do think this is an advantage as well, that he knows the club that we're going to play, and he should know the competition and the right way to play it, I hope.
I think probably more than any game we've witnessed since 1984, I think we can expect to have what you used to term a homer and the referee, without a shadow of a doubt. Because it'd take a brave referee to give us 50-50s, wouldn't it? Let alone the big decisions. And my concern is in modern football, and you see it it's weird because you used to see it a lot in rugby and not so much in football, but little decisions accumulate to give a team either a lack of rhythm or the other team rhythm. And I do worry about that. I don't know who's reffing, I haven't looked, but they need to be strong and brave, because it's going to be white hot. It's a knockout game at the end of the day, and Fenerbahce is probably one of the great atmospheres in world football, and certainly in Europe. And it's to them, they're playing a Premier League team, former European champions, and it's a knockout game. It's going to be massive. The 2 or 3 hour boredom sessions we have before and after are going to be forgotten once the build-up starts and the whistle goes.
Right, very quickly then, match predictions. Mollo, very quickly, what's the score going to be?
With a full-strength side, 0-0.
Kate?
1-1.
I'm going to go 0-1, as in a defeat for Forest, but that won't be totally surprising, I don't think.
Or
But very
disastrous.
much means they're in the second leg, very much in the tie still. Right, coming to the end of the show then, we've got a few things to cover off in any other business, I believe. We'll start with you, Kate. Anything you want to bring up?
No, just that it's interesting, isn't it? A week in the life of a Forest fan.
Always, never a dull moment, is it? Mollo, anything from you?
Just a date for the diary, and obviously we'll get Ellie on. March the 28th, international weekend at the Forest Ground. We're Legends Night for the Garibaldi Girls Gala. So more details to follow, but it sounds like it'll be a great night, good food, hopefully good guest speakers and visits, and celebrate our legends, particularly pertinent this year because there'll be a tribute to the great Robbo, of course.
Excellent
proceeds, all tickets sold.
Oh, sorry, all proceeds to
Nottingham Women's
worthy
Centre.
charity. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
good
in aid
stuff.
charity. I should have said that bit first, shouldn't I? Sorry.
We'll look forward to hearing more about that
Yeah.
as the time nears. The only other thing I was going to bring up is that our last podcast has done really well on YouTube. So it's been well received. I want to thank everybody who's watched it, who's subscribed, who's liked it, who's commented it. Your feedback is very much appreciated, and we really appreciate your support as well. So thanks to everybody who's watched that. I do want to give a shout out though to a chap called Kevin Condon, who made a comment today before we were recording, and he said that he thinks Mollo was sitting on his toilet with the toilet rail holder behind him as he was recording. And Mollo, can you confirm you are not sat on the toilet with him recording this podcast?
I'm intrigued as to whether he's looking at the door handle or
He was.
one of my wife's plants that was in the background, which I deliberately moved today. So my apologies, Mr. Condon. Safety first, obviously. Not on the toilet, I promise. And I don't know how to be more dynamic because we're not moving around takes your camera. But there we go.
So you did see that one then, because
Yeah,
he did
yeah.
say we lacked dynamism, didn't he? And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know what dynamism looks like on a podcast. Does he expect us to sing and dance our way through it? But
You could try.
we could try.
No, that'd put everyone
volume
off.
chant if you like.
Yeah. Right, thanks very much, guys. Have a safe trip. We will try and give you a podcast after Fenerbahce on Friday in the run-up to Liverpool, but that very much depends on flights and timings. So hopefully we'll deliver
Jail
one of those
sentences.
jail sentences as well. One could say Pereira's been given an 18-month sentence, couldn't we, in a funny sort of way. But yeah, so thanks again for listening and for watching those on YouTube. We'll be back later in the week, as I say, hopefully with another show. In the meantime, we'll bid you farewell and bye for now.